First, we'd like to welcome naturalist, author, photographer, teacher, and blogger Fred First up here to read one of his radio essays. So I was looking at your blog, and I can tell that you're a passionate resident of Floyd, one of many. And it mentions that you blog the hyper-local. And I've heard a lot about the local, but I don't know what the hyper-local is.
Hyper-local in Floyd means you only have to go about 100 yards from the light in the county to find this kind of culture. And I only have to go about 100 yards from my back door to find elements of nature, natural history, landscape, and slices of life to write about. You don't have to be a world traveler to find some really incredible stuff anywhere, but in Floyd County, I think especially. This piece celebrates the rhythms, pace, and cycles of nature, and it's appropriate for this time of year. I think it's called Home Economics. The standing corn browns and curls, and our deep valley grows colder in the shadows of the shortening October days. The cannings laid by, we celebrate the end of long months of kneeling servitude to the trowel and the watering can. We look forward at last to reclaiming our days from the tyranny of the garden, but our glimpse of freedom is a false and short-lived interlude of recovery. Our responsible guardianship only changes in the fall, from gardening to the unending care and feeding of the wood stove. We decided long ago to heat our house with wood as long as we were able. Every fall, I have to explain this illogic to myself one more time. Just as I find myself standing in garden mud in the humid heat of early August, blowing gnats out of my eyes, questioning the economy of being a grower of vegetables. It would be so much easier just to pay and be a consumer. But we garden, then we gather wood. Two self-inflicted and mostly joyous burdens in our year. Not all that different in their end products or purpose or in their impact on our lives for good. Neither heating with wood nor growing a year's worth of garden vegetables is a path of least resistance, not the greatest convenience or efficiency of our finite personal energies. In both these labor-intensive endeavors, there is the illusion of control over our lives in at least these small ways. And I feel very much like the omnipotent dictator as I plan my attack on the woodlot or the corn rows. But when I'm honest with myself, I have to acknowledge my utter dependence on the workings of sun, heat, rain, sap, and soil plus time. I carry the heavy, dirty pieces of wood one by one from forest to truck to woodpile to stove. I stoop, bend, tug, water, hoe, weed, lift, and harvest, each of a dozen varieties of prolific root and fruit. And in the end, I have to confess in all of this, I'm just the midwife, standing with relatively little control, little to do with the process, but collect what nature makes of her own secret raw materials. Our winter comfort that comes from filled canning jars and from wood's warmth depends on the internal wisdom of roots, trunks, and leaves. It relies, too, on the integrity of our woodcutter's tools and gardening utensils and the strength of these bodies of ours. All must work together, nature, tool, human hands. Our woodpile and the green, gold, and yellow canning jars lined up like functional are in the dark vault of the cellar are testimony that, for at least one more year, we have lived in a blessed harmony with our wits, our own bones, and the land that somehow sustains us. The full warmth we feel from firewood cannot be measured in degrees, just as the nourishment from the garden can't be measured merely in calories. Now the garden of the years past. Lessons in the cold months ahead won't come from the fenced domain of the garden, but from open, wooded hillsides of Goose Creek, From the splitting and stacking and stoking that will keep fires throwing flickers of flame through the glass door of the wood stove into this warm room from late September until mid-April. Then as days lengthen in the spring, the soil thaws through mud to crumbling dark loam once more. The garden's needs will become the focus of our labors, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and so it goes. In these shorter days of autumn, then, as we move our energies from garden soil to open forest, we've come to a changing of the guard. Our garden's hibernating. It's time to go hunt the bare bones of walnuts and locusts and oaks. It's hard work. It's good work. It is our economy, what we do. And in my ledger, there's no better pay for a day's work than this. Thank you.
He's reading from his book, which is entitled Soil Road Home, and it's on sale at the Country Store. And you can